English translation. 166th contact. Thursday, 11th of March, 1982. 4.11 hours.
It is now that time.
I could not sleep anyway, so let us go and see this funny planetary alignment at once.
As you wish.
Aha, there, the sun is already rising terrifically fast. Where do we actually have to go in order to be able to see all the planets together?
If you are standing on the Earth and have the sun centered in front of you and then see this as left and right, then we must keep to the left and, in addition, fly out into space a great distance. Only from there is it possible that all the planets in the alignment can be seen together.
I know that, yes, I just did not know where that point is.
Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars are the closest together, at least visibly, because they are truly separated by millions of kilometers.
You mean hundreds of millions of kilometers?
That is of correctness, and here we are already, my friend. You can make your observations from here.
Thank you. Interesting, but one cannot really see everything by one's eyes. Even from here, in free space, the planets are too small.
Here, we are even further away from the planets than if you were to observe them from the Earth. You can see them better if you observe them through this magnification device. Here.
Fantastic. This is probably a completely new device?
Yes, and it reflects the image recordings three-dimensionally.
I can see that. This is the most perfect 3D image that I have ever seen with you.
Here, do you see now?
That is really incredible. The entire alignment has moved out of space and into the foreground. Now I can fully recognize every single planet.
If you glide one finger away and over this scale, then you can enlarge or shrink the image, depending on how you please. On this opposite contact line, however, with a simple touch of the finger, you can separate out any square as a cutout, which you can then also enlarge again with the scale, by what means it is possible for you to separate out individual planets and observe them individually.
And can one enlarge the image of the planet onto the whole image area?
Certainly, test the device.
I will. Wait, here now. Man, that is clever. Aha, now I have the Earth. I will get it now. Fantastic. It is bigger than on the biggest television screen of our house televisions. But what is that? Man, those are satellites, whizzing there around the Earth in a variety of courses and far out into space. There are hundreds of them. The human beings of the Earth are so crazy to have placed a whole junk ring around the planet with these things. I have never seen this before.
Even for us, it was not possible before. This new device first offers us this possibility. But look here.
Saturn, and there's Pluto, yes. And there comes Uranus, but, I understand. This must be one of the Voyager probes. Is it also possible to fetch this and enlarge it?
One moment, my friend. Here, you see.
Fantastic. It fills up half the screen. But man, how it looks. The thing is really scratched.
The cosmic radiations and the frictions with dust particles, particularly from Jupiter's and Saturn's rings, have not passed by the probe without a trace.
Oh, I see. That is why. Is the thing still functioning then?
The inner parts of the probe have only taken minor damage from the radiations. Nevertheless, the damage does not affect its function. It will still work perfectly for a long time.
Then our scientists still have to expect a lot of work.
That will be the case if nothing unexpected happens. But now, observe the whole alignment once more because we have to go back again.
All right, I have done that already. But tell me, you explained to me that about every 180 years, All these planets are united on one side of the sun. But now, everywhere with us, it is maintained that this is only the case every 510 years. Moreover, it is also maintained that yesterday was the day when the planets would have stood in closest formation to each other, whereas you have explained to me that this would not be the case until the 14th.
My data are of correctness, which you can recalculate yourself. The Soel planets are on one side of the sun approximately every 180 years, but it should be taken into account that they, in each case with these groupings, are spread throughout the whole space on the side of the sun, while here, now, that grouping occurs, which really only repeats itself approximately every 500 years, namely, when the planets move in only about a quarter of the space enclosing the sun. Now, the scientists of the Earth claim that on Wednesday, the distance of the planets to each other was the smallest. Then this information does not correspond to the truth, because this only concerns an apparent nearest or closest distance. This apparent distance only arises from the viewing perspective of the Earth, because seen from there all the planets are the closest to each other according to sight. Nevertheless, the effective closest distance of all the planets to each other will not be reached until the 14th of March, for then they will actually be the closest to each other according to distance. The Earth scientists are still mistaken in very many things, so also in astronomy. This will already prove itself again in a short time, when once again, the Earth scientists gain new insights in reference to new and revolutionary discoveries in space, so also in reference to the Sun and all SOL planets, but also in reference to the reality of the Earth's orbit around the Sun, which, in part, runs a little differently than what the scientists accept up to now. Hence, they will recognize and have to admit that also in reference to the 4 seasons, the revolution of the Earth around the Sun behaves a little differently than what has been taught. This will be a shocking realization, as well as the realization and finding that will be made in about 15 years, that the determined distances to the stars and galaxies, etc., are not correct.
They are indeed used to the fact that they have to admit their crap again in each case, even if this is often very difficult for them.
That is of correctness, but now we have to go back, my friend. In addition, I still have a few important issues to explain to you.
Then can we still go for a little spin in the storm that is raging over the Atlantic and over some parts of Europe? It was substantially crashing all around in the area when you brought me up into the ship. It sounded as if the entire center would be carried away by the storm.
The elements really exert tremendous forces. In the current storm, wind speeds of 127 kilometers per hour are prevailing.
Tremendous, but I like such storms.
As for your center, it is located in an offshoot of a hurricane.
Of course, I know that already. But a storm is a storm, and even a hurricane is a storm for me. And I just like storms.
It corresponds to your nature, and somehow you are just like that.
You mean that like attract like...
In this form, I have thought, yes. You have some of this natural, stormy power in you, and I often had the impression, when you suddenly appeared in my ship, as if a piece of wilderness had appeared and had come to me.
That sounds so damn suspiciously like earlier times, my friend, because one would often tell me this when I had come from somewhere in the desert, from mountains or from the jungles, and entered somewhere into a consulate or embassy or somewhere else into so-called civilized buildings, etc.
That is known to me, but I had nothing to do with that. And my present words also do not refer to that, but solely to my impression and to my feelings that really, sometimes, a piece of wilderness suddenly falls upon me when you appear. But it is always a piece of wilderness that is familiar and that offers security as well as strength, and before which one must not be afraid if one is well-meaning toward it.
You are dreaming, my son.
Nevertheless, the aforesaid corresponds to the facts.
Then so it is. Where are we now? The storm is raging there below.
High above the center.
Very nice. Below are the bubbling and scudding clouds, and high above us is the star-covered sky.
Everything has its charms.
Tell me about it. The world and the entire universe are simply fantastic and worth living and enjoying every second.
That is a word that the Earth humans should remember.
You are asking for a lot there, just as if you would require that the human beings of Earth should stop their population explosion. Even lust, greed, obsession, and irrationality are too greatly and deeply rooted in human beings for words of reason to be able to resolve this. That is why the problems also do not become smaller, even though new solutions are always sought and found. Whether it concerns the area of rising crime, the threat of war, and the wars and revolutions, or whether it concerns famine, the energy problem, diseases, and so on and so forth. If all of us would think logically and rationally about all this, then we would all know damn well that none of these problems of the Earth humans can be satisfactorily resolved or corrected, because all solutions are only self-deceptive solutions. For every solution to a problem only solves it momentarily, for a period of several months at the most. Thus, all solutions toward resolving the problems are only apparent solutions that represent a catastrophic self-deception. For, in truth, the problems do not become solved at all. Any self-deceptive solution of the human beings of Earth, namely whether it concerns the construction of a new nuclear power plant, or the new surveying of oil sources or grain productions, etc., only leads to the fact that earthly humanity always continues to rise sharply, by which means the solution becomes self-deception. For through this, the apparently solved problem inflates to a new farce. Thus, if the human being of Earth truly wants to solve his or her already catastrophically degenerated problems of hunger, energy shortage, illnesses, criminal activity, and wars and revolutions, etc., then for this, there is only one way which exhibits no mercy, namely, an absolute legally arranged birth stop across the whole world. At the same time, this birth stop would have to be monitored in such a manner that, for the preservation of humanity and new blood, a certain number of descendants may only be generated every 7 years, and then again, 7 years of the birth stop would have to be the rule. This would then have to be carried out until Earth humanity would be reduced to an acceptable and natural measure, through the naturally occurring deaths of the excess population. There is simply no other way to solve the problem because every other way violates the natural laws and therefore represents a self-deception.
Of clearer correctness, you could not have explained these matters. Indeed, all problems of the Earth humans can only be solved in this kind and wise. Obviously, you have made profound thoughts about this, through which you have encountered the 7-year cycle, as we have also acquired this as a true solution, and even the High Council and Arahat Athersata have only found this advice for the Earth humans as the true solution to the problem. This subject, however, leads me into what I still wanted to discuss with you further, and which assigns a new task to you. This concerns...
That is once again a task that is appropriate for me. Damn it again.
It is very unpleasant, I know. Also the fact that in reference to group interests and other internal matters, a voice to the outside has existed for a while, through which very many things have been taken outside and have reached ears, for which, in fact, everything was not determined. But unfortunately, it happens over and over again, as I already mentioned recently, that new group members continuously give occasion for reproach, because from the very beginning of the entrance into the group, They do not adapt themselves into the given regulations and ordinal rules. But this should, in fact, finally be so far that these kinds of incidents no longer appear.
That would also be a relief for me.
Henceforth, it will have to be such that in cases of new admissions of group members, I have to give my consent for these, only after I have clarified some important facts about the persons concerned.
That is right to me, for through this, I hope that a lot will improve. That is, if you actually rummage around a little in the brains of the persons concerned.
From now on, that will be inevitable. But now it is again the time that we part. Goodbye.
Take care. Now, I will still get some sleep. Bye.